Hey everyone, first let me wish you a late Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays to all of you. Second, this is the last build of the League and 2020. It is a custom created Volatile Dead Necromancer. First ever Necromancer and also the first witch build in a year. And to be totally honest, I don't know why or how it took me this long to come up with a witch build, but hey, better late than never, am I right? And the reason behind this ungodly being is that at the beginning of the league I did something similar as an assassin but cheaped out by using a Terminus Est. That build wasn't terrible but pales in comparison to this one, as you'll see from the Conquerors, Srs and other stuff that I can cram into the video. Now we are 5 days away from 2021 and a couple of weeks away before 3.13. Heist by all intents and purposes is over. So I will advise attempting this in the next league as long as the Necromancer doesn't get hit too hard by incoming nerfs, which I'm pretty sure that there will be. I just hope that this build survives the inevitable balance patch. Having said all of that, this character is also a bit stressful to both your PC and the Path of Exile servers. A thicker, meaner, faster computer is going to handle it just fine, but us mortals do suffer from some of that delicious frame drop experience. Anyways, if you enjoy the content, be sure to subscribe to the channel, otherwise a rating and a comment are always appreciated. So with that out of the way, let's grab 2020 with some corpse exploding action. Alright, so about the build itself. Well, we are gonna change things up a bit in today's guide because both the gear and tree synergize with each other enough to the point where I cannot talk about one without mentioning the other one. So we are gonna combine both of them for this section. First things first, we are gonna be using Maligaro's Virtuosity on this character. And I did this to quote-unquote cheapen the cost of crit multi, while also making it easier for us to gear the character. As you see from the skill tree, we don't really focus around crit multi nodes, we just wing any crit that we find on the way. That includes power charges. Which brings me to the next thing. We are using a Militant Faith with Dominus as the patron of the Yule to convert any keystone in range into Inner Conviction. This converts any frenzy charge generation into power charge gains, while also giving us a hefty amount of spell damage per power charge. In order to generate those power charges, we are gonna use an Awakener Slammed body that has both attacks have additional crit chance and power charges on critical hits. However, frenzy charges on hit from Redeemer bodies also working here thanks to Militant Faith. Anyways, we also want life and both chance to avoid elemental ailments and chance to avoid being stunned crafted on the body armor. Coming back to the tree, we are gonna focus on grabbing those power charges and any life and damage that happens to be on the way, especially crit chance. However, we must avoid attack speed in the skill tree. This is thanks to a node in the Ascendancy that is going to give us the attack speed that we require. You'll see what I mean in just a bit. Anyhow, we are also moving to the shadow side of the tree, grabbing life, crit chance and some damage, while also taking dodge stuff and the cluster jewel setup. This cluster jewel setup has a large cluster jewel with 8 passives at most, or else you overspend points, but it also requires Prismatic Heart, Cremator and any other notable that you can afford to cram into it. In this case, I've got Disorienting Display. Cremator is the most important thing because that is how we are gonna destroy enemies on kill, especially on death crabheads like the porcupines, so don't skip on Cremator. One of the medium clusters has 5 passives at most, with both Evil Eye and Lord of Drought. Since my character is 92, I haven't taken Lord of Drought yet, but you should totally level up again just to grab it. The other cluster jewel is a bit of a stretch. I've got a Megalomaniac with Unwavering Focus for the 40% chance to avoid being stunned while channeling, and both Natural Vigor and Surging Vitality for a whopping 16% increased maximum life. In your case, any Megalomaniac with Unwavering Focus and at least 2 life notables is good enough. But if you cannot find one with those notables, a rare one with Unwavering Focus alone is good enough. Especially since you're gonna be sucking another rare jewel in the slot and you can take any life node on the tree to compensate. Before talking about the jewels, I wanna point out 2 things. One is that we take Elemental Focus for a 10% chance to avoid elemental ailments alongside some damage, but mostly for the avoidance of elemental ailments because we are gonna combine it with the mod on the chest, Shaper boots with that same modifier and a craft on the helmet, That way we are gonna become immune to that crap. And also the second thing, and you cannot sleep on this one, is Undertaker. This is going to give us a couple of goodies for corpse defiling fun, and alongside the Necromancer Ascendancy, it is a no-brainer. Get it as soon as possible. Besides that, the jewels have increased the maximum life, crit chance and in some cases accuracy, but that is it for the skill tree. We are gonna talk about the Ascendancy later on in this video. Now for the rest of the gear, the weapon is very important because we want a two-hander axe with crit chance as the implicit. With a crit chance craft, this weapon pretty much becomes a crit statistic, which is gonna be pretty important considering the fact that we are not an assassin, so any crit that we get is extremely beneficial for this entire setup. Alongside the base, we want cast on crit intrinsically and if possible +1 level of socketed gems. Mine is a bit too good to be real, but with all honesty I found this one for a couple of chaos on trade and I just had to 6-link it. The crit multi is irrelevant, so just focus on the rest of this stuff. The helmet has Volatile Dead consumes up to 1 additional corpse as the enchantment, which is mandatory alongside life, a resistance and as much accuracy as possible and the avoid ailments craft. Accuracy is extremely important in this character, so get as much as you can. Also, I slammed it with a Warlord Exile for the increased elemental damage. Optimally, a power charge is better. The amulet has crit chance, life, fire resistance and fire damage leached as life, and I crafted an endurance charge on it, and I also anointed Heart of Oak for some life and stun stuff, which alongside the craft on the body, Unwavering Focus and Phantasmal Cyclone makes us stun immune while channeling Cyclone. One of the rings has crit chance, life, spell damage, a resistance and another minimum endurance charge crafted on it. The other ring has flammability on hit, either as the implicit or as a suffix, alongside life, crit chance, a resistance and the final endurance charge. The belt is a hunter influenced Stygian Vice with life, increased life, a resist and I bench crafted some strength. If you can get damage crafted on it, that will be optimal. The jewel on the belt has life, crit chance and resist penetration. Also the boots have life, a resist and cooldown recovery rate, but I'll talk about that in a second. Also my boots have damage penetrates elemental resistances if you haven't killed recently, and if you can get that enchantment that will be great. But anyways, the flasks are a Wise Oak, a Diamond and a Cinder Swallow Urn. Okay, so now for the Ascendancy. As someone who has never played with a Necromancer, I just wanna say, whoever balanced this Ascendancy needs a slap on the wrist, because goddammit, it does everything for little investment. But anyways, we take Commander of Darkness for damage, resistances and attack speed, Essence Glutton to regenerate mana while having and consuming corpses, Plague Bringer for some area of effect, chunky damage and damage reduction, and finally Corpse Pact for attack speed, shocking and chilling enemies alongside some damage. However, I am gonna go back to the axe and boots now. Why? Well, because there is a thing here that needs to be mentioned. That thing being the attack speed threshold for cast on critical strike. I went into a bit of a ramble on that topic with the cast on crit Wave of Conviction Assassin, but I wanna quickly go over the fact that without any cooldown recovery speed on your gear or gems, you cannot go over 12.12 attacks per second while using 2 spells in your cast on crit setup. If you do that, you are going to skip casts and that is going to break the flow of the character, which is why cooldown recovery speed is important, especially to deal a bit more damage. Like it or not, you're going to break that threshold with the Necromancer. The more corpses that you consume, the faster that you are going to attack, thanks to Corpse Pact. And believe me, you are going to push above that threshold often, which is why I reused these boots from the Assassin. This is also why we use an axe and not a sword for the cast on crit setup, as the axe has lower attack speed, which is going to help us keep that threshold in check. It all synergizes, and skipping on 1 or 2 things can hurt the flow of the character a bit. But with all of that said, let's talk about the gem setups. In the weapon, Phantasmal Cyclone linked to Anomalous Spell Cascade, Divergent Desecrate, Immolate, Volatile Dead and Anomalous Inspiration. Try to get this at level 21 and 20 quality, and also remember that cast on crit is inside the axe intrinsically. In the body armor, Zealotry, Herald of Ash and Precision, all of them linked to Enlighten level 3. In the helmet, Flame Dash and Withering Step linked to Second Wind and Arcane Surge. In the gloves, Vaal Righteous Fire linked to increased duration, also Infernal Cry and a Portal Gem. And in the boots, a low-level Divergent Vitality alongside Wave of Conviction linked to Combustion and a Spell Totem. With all of that out of the way, let's wrap this Necrotic Fever up. And being totally honest, this was more fun than I expected. I leveled up the character by using a Poet's Pen and Desecrate on Spellslinger. I was done with the campaign roughly 6 hours later. That doesn't happen to me often. I spammed Yulnetol breaches until I hit level 90, then grinded high tier maps until I spawned and killed the Conquerors. That got me to 92. This was a 2.5 day grind without taking into account gear crafting, PoE meddling and stuff. Just pure gameplay. Necromancer is definitely something a bit too shenanigan friendly, which is not a bad thing on its own, but I don't know, it feels dirty being so fast with an Ascendancy that is focused around minions, while not precisely using minions. Anyways, the build itself is far stronger than the Assassin version, a bit more expensive, especially at this ungodly time in Heist's lifespan. And while I certainly expect a Necromancer nerf next league, I genuinely hope that it doesn't get gutted, so that you guys can give this one a shot. Now, I know that I build around Stun Immunity and also Element Avoidance, which together make this one a bit harder to gear due to us requiring specific modifiers, jewels and gear. You can ditch the Element Avoidance and focus on pure Stun Immunity to keep this cheaper and easier to gear, but as I've said in the past few videos, elements nowadays are way too obnoxious, so if you have the chance to avoid them, I think that you should take it and make your builds quote-unquote safer to play with. Just be warned that this ungodly mess is going to shorten the lifespan of your computer. Well, Path of Exile as a whole does that, but this character is going to help a great deal in that regard. But yeah, that's it for today's content. I am thinking one last video before the year is done, but don't hold me to that. So, I wanna thank you so much for watching tonight's content. Don't forget to subscribe and I hope to catch you on the next one, whenever that may be. Take care, Merry late Christmas or holidays, and peace out.
I'm reliant on them. I am not so foolish.
Beyond, there is only horror.
Be silent.
When I'm ready and not before.
Die.
Your lives are meaningless. Glorious flames! Fury of the cosmos! Pointless!
Is life really interesting enough to warrant all this pain? Die.
I have seen beyond.
Die. Die.
Watch beauty crumble. Pointless. Be utterly annihilated. Pointless.
On the edge of death, my heart races. I am alive. Meaning
Is an illusion. Everlasting fire.
meaning
Is an illusion. Everlasting fire. Die.
ready and not before.
Feel the thrill of
The void. Everlasting fire. Die.
at least.